evening. And thank you for coming. I would also like to thank everyone that came out on Monday night and participated in the session we had on Monday. I say to them, we heard you, and we will hear you tonight. You will have a major impact on this project. And our hope is when the consultation process is complete, we will all call this project our own. Together with the province, we have engaged Tim Mary, the consultant behind the successful Halifax Public Library consultation, and many others around the world. We all have agreed that Tim will have 3 clients: the province, ourselves, and the public. And this process will be honest and open. Please welcome Tim Mary.
And in case you didn't know, that was Joe Ramia, who's the developer for the Nova Centre. You didn't introduce yourself there, Joe. Good, so I'm Tim Mary. I'm part of a team of 6 people who are helping run the public engagements for the Nova Centre. This is the second of a total of 11 public engagements that are happening in the city and all over the province. There is myself. I work with a young woman called Rachel Dera, who is leading creative engagement on the street. I work with another fantastic artist called Marguerite Drescher, who is doing a lot of graphic recording and capturing the outputs of the gatherings that we work with. Karen Densmore, who is organizing all of the logistics for the engagement itself. Sarah Thompson, who is helping us design processes. Who am I missing? Craig Moore at the back with Spider Video, who's doing all the streaming video, social media, and then we're also working with MTNL, who've been supporting us with website design and the overall kind of look and feel of the engagement. So that's a sense of who we are. I realized I was given very strong feedback on Monday that I didn't introduce myself, and people were like, "Who is this man who started off the engagement?" So there you are. That's who I am. So I also started off Monday, and then also I was on the radio on Tuesday, talking a lot about how divisive this issue is, how divisive this development is in the community, but also kind of in my own field of friends, how divisive it is. And so there's lots of things we could talk about tonight, right? We could talk about how taxpayer money is being spent. We could talk about whether the convention center is a good idea. We could talk about how much I'm getting paid. That was in the papers today. We could talk about that. What else? We could talk about whether a Nova Centre in the middle of town is even a good idea. So, or there's also been lots of talk about this, about how we got to where we are today. We could talk about the process so far. So my invitation today is to get into some of the content, is to actually shift the public conversation, as of now, away for the next 2 hours, away from the process of how we got here and what has happened and who's getting paid for what, into the content of what this building could look and feel like. We, the people who have chosen to come to this gathering tonight, we have a capacity to influence the look and feel of this building. We have the opportunity to influence the iconic nature of this building, the architectural tone that this building will strike in the heart of the city of Halifax. That's what we have the opportunity to influence tonight over the next 2 hours. And I feel if we spend our time talking about other things, we're going to have wasted that opportunity. We're going to have wasted it. So I'm not saying those conversations aren't important, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be had. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for the next 2 hours, let's do this. Let's do this, and let's do it well, and let's do it together. Because I'm here because I believe it's important, and I'm here because I believe we can have influence. And so I invite you into that. Thanks for coming. Huh? Okay. There's another invitation, which is please bring your passion, please bring your clarity, please bring everything you care about. I think it takes a lot of courage for human beings to turn up in a room full of other people they don't know and may not have met, and actually talk about things that you care about, to be authentic, to listen, to be vulnerable with what you don't know, to instead of immediately jumping in and try and prove the person wrong, to actually fully hear them out. I think that takes enormous courage in rooms of people you don't know. So I invite you to be courageous like that tonight. I invite you to be courageous in how you interact with each other. All right? And then I want to also say that I think I'm asking for more than just that tonight. And I want there to be no, I don't want to hide any of my assumptions. I'm also asking you to trust the public engagement team. That if you're going to turn up and you're going to start saying things that matter to you and that are important to you tonight, I'm asking you to trust me and my team that we're going to take what you say and we're going to reflect it rigorously and authentically to decision makers. I'm asking you to trust that. I feel like I've been given the independence I need to be able to reflect public opinion in a real way to those who are making decisions around this project. So I'm asking you to trust us that we're going to do that well. All right? I'm also asking more of you than that. I'm asking you to trust the developer and the architect. That's what I'm asking you to do tonight. I'm asking you to trust them. I'm asking you to speak, and I'm asking you to trust that they're actually going to respond to what you say. That they're going to take it in, they're going to think about it, and they're going to respond. And they're going to integrate it into the design. And where they can't integrate it into the design, they're going to come back and be like, we thought about it, and here's why we couldn't integrate that thing. So I'm asking you to trust the developer and the architect and the decision makers on this project. Because if we don't, we're always going to be holding back at the table. We're always going to be holding back. So trust and courage, I feel like they go together tonight. And I think I'm asking even one more thing. I'm asking a lot tonight, huh? I'm asking you to trust each other. I'm asking you to trust the people at the table enough that you're willing to hear opinions that are fundamentally different to yours and realize they're just part of the tapestry of opinion that makes this community an interesting place to live. I'm asking you to trust that all the knowledge we need about how to design a completely awesome building in the heart of our downtown is right here in this room. I'm asking you to trust that. I'm asking you to trust each other enough to do that. Not to prove each other wrong, but to take each other's insights in and piece them together into something that not a single one of us could come up with alone. That's what I'm asking you to do. Can we paint a picture here together among this group of however many people we are, somewhere between 70 and 80, I would say? Can we paint a picture that's just better than anything any individual could come up with? That's what I'm asking you to trust that. I'm asking you to trust the wisdom of a crowd is greater than the wisdom of an individual. I'm asking you to trust that. That basic principle has informed all of my work for the last 15 years of my life. And my experience is that it's true. 70 people are smarter than one. Right? There's a risk that goes with it. There's a risk that goes with trusting a crowd. Because you may come with something you really care about, but that isn't the thing that simmers to the top by the end of the meeting. That isn't the thing that resonates with enough people in this room that it's like what turns up on the wall or it's what makes it into the building. So there's a risk in trusting the crowd too. And I want to acknowledge that. Can you trust each other enough just to give it a go and bring what you've got and see if it lands in such a way that people are like, yeah, I think that too. And then boom, it's up on the wall. And then it's part of what goes to decision makers. And then it makes it into the building or not. But we're not going to make any influence if we don't give it tonight. So please, don't hold back. That's my strongest request from you. All right, great. It was Pat and Matt on music over there. They've run away. We should give them a round of applause anyway, probably. But, oh, there we are. They're coming in. Thank you for the music, Pat and Matt. Lovely. All right, so I'm going to give you a little sense of tonight. So there's a welcome, we're doing that now, and in a second we're going to ask you to check in, we're going to ask you to turn to your neighbor, quite literally the person sitting next to you, so we can begin the conversation here. We're then going to hear from some speakers, what's the context of the building. So we're going to hear from Joe, we're going to hear from Scott, we're going to hear from Noel, who's the architect, and we're going to hear from Andy Fillmore. And then we're going to get into conversation with each other, and we're going to use a process called World Cafe. And we're going to use it because I've seen it work a lot. That's why we're going to use it. I trust it. All right? Then we're going to pull out themes from that World Cafe. We've designed a process tonight whereby you decide the themes. One of the feedback we got on Monday was normally what we do is we collect the themes and then we cluster them on the wall. Tonight, you get to decide what the themes are and you get to cluster them. All right? So we're not messing with your information. You're making it. All right? And then there'll be like a little close and we'll be done. That's how it looks. I don't have a clicker, look. All right. Purpose of the consultations. Oops. There we are. Highly responsive and participatory interface between decision makers, stakeholders, and public. That's what we're doing. We're trying to make the gap between those who are making decisions and those who are affected by them as small and interactive and responsive as possible. That's what we're trying to do. Thanks, Rach. I'd appreciate that. Lovely. Quick overview, very quick overview of the engagement as a whole, just so you can see it. There was an initial stakeholder gathering with people who've been involved with and talking with the project for about 3 years already. We then did a town hall on Monday where we heard multiple perspectives. We're now moving into the vision and principles, the overall look and feel of the building, as I said earlier, the architectural tone, the iconic nature of it, all right? We then, over August and September, there's 5 provincial engagements where we're also looking at the general kind of look and feel of the building, the iconic nature, but we're also looking at how could this development benefit rural communities? How does a massive investment in the downtown of the hub city of a province have a positive impact on the rural areas? Let's go to communities in rural areas and ask them. Let's find out. All right? We then come back in October through to November, conversation around the streetscape, the area surrounding the building, October the 3rd. These are the things we can influence, the streetscape that's surrounding the building. October the 24th, sorry, public space. So there's a public space inside the building. We get to influence that. And then also the convention center itself, November the 21st. So those are the engagements. December, we come back to you and we say, here's everything we heard. Here's how we've integrated your voice. These are our final understandings of what the building's going to look like. That's kind of how it's rolling out. Thanks, Rach. Great. So I'm just going to ask you to turn to your neighbor. And if possible, like 2 humans, sometimes 3. If you could avoid it being tables of 5, it just means not all of you will get heard if you're in a group of 5 straight off this. It's going to be a short conversation, maybe 5 to 7 minutes between 2 people. And what we're asking you is like, okay, so let's start with where you're at. What does the Nova Center mean to me? Why is this gathering important? You've turned up here 2 hours on a Thursday night, right, of your life. You're giving it. Thank you. Why is this important to you? What does it mean to you? And ideally, if you're sitting next to somebody you know, you could stand up and find somebody you don't. And some people aren't comfortable with that, I understand. But if you're feeling courageous, stand up and go find somebody you don't know. Don't wait to be asked. Just go sit with them. Just go find someone. So you'll hear from us in about 7 minutes. What does the Nova Center mean to me? Why is this gathering important to me? How come you've turned up here tonight? 1 or 2 or 3 people maximum, not tables of 5. Have a nice conversation. Okay. We're going to bring you back. How you doing? So we just wanted to hear, we're not going to spend too long here, maybe just 5 or 6 people. Feels important that we talk to each other before we hear from others. But did anything come up that was particularly surprising or insightful or funny? Or what came up in the conversations you were just in that would be useful for us all to hear or fun for us all to hear? So we're just going to, Rachel's going to kind of handle that half of the room. I think I'll handle this half of the room. And so if anything came up, just stick your hand up. And we'd love just to hear 4 or 5 people so we don't end up having small isolated conversations, but they're connected together. Don't want to put your hands up at once.
Hi. The people at my table, or at least, yeah, we weren't really clear on what exactly is going to be inside the building and how it's exactly going to be used, and just the nature of the content and the function.
Super, thank you. I can't hold my breath that long. Oh, Rachel's got another one.
Perhaps in my own ignorance, I didn't realize that there had already been some ideas for the place, a box and some podiums or whatever that Parks Canada didn't care for. And perhaps if squares and rectangles were not popular with some people beforehand, then maybe something that has some curves might be nicer in the future, maybe something that echoes the curve of a sail on a sailing ship or a wave or something like that.
Thank you.
So I'm not representing the table, I'm sorry, but what it would mean to me would be if this project, at the end of the day, had put Halifax in a position of international leadership on environmental sustainability, which would mean that we would assess all of the decisions, architectural, urban, economic, etc., in a triple bottom line way. And if we want to talk more about that, then we can. Thanks.
Thank you. I feel like I'll need to rally this end of the room somehow. And anything from down here? Do I have to pick somebody? Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Table with the two gentlemen here to my immediate right, I think just to touch on them both very, very quickly, two things that we did mention, or at least touch on, is one, the word distraction came up, and how one of the many, many perspectives along the way to saying, is this good, is this needed, is this beneficial, and what will it do for us now down the road, is that Halifax can be so easily distracted by things like urban sprawl and suburban sprawl, and how do we manage it, how do we control it, how do we turn things back around to the perspective of the downtown. We are distracted by things like Moncton, what Moncton gets and has and does versus what Halifax can manage to grab and hold on to, and we're trying to account for all of these things when we should be a little bit more centralized and Halifax downtown based if we're going to talk about a Halifax downtown based entity like the Nova Centre. The other thing is, we were also touching on when the Nova Centre is in place, then what? What's one of the next dominoes to fall? And one of the things we touched on was what happens to the Trade Center itself. What happens to the Trade Center? And one of the things we were talking about, well, do a bit of reno, do a bit of upgrade, have it office space, be it municipal, be it public or private, be it multi-levels of government if it comes to that, but perhaps make that into office space.
Thank you. One more? Can I dig someone out? Something that came up in your conversation just a minute ago? No, I can't force the public to talk. All right. So we're going to move right into hearing from 5 speakers. So the reason we're doing this was we felt that it was important to give you context before we opened up the conversations around what would we like this building to be and become in our city. So, thanks, Rach. Oh, look, we missed that slide. There we go. So here's the... Here are the speakers we're going to work with. Joanne McRae wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. She was coming to close off for us tonight, but she's doing an event up at the Halifax Hub, and the people she's working for wasn't able to be there, so she wasn't able to come at the last minute. So we're going to hear from Joe Ramia, the Nova Centre developer. We're then going to hear from Scott Ferguson, so Trade Centre Limited, the managers of the Convention Centre. We're going to hear from Andy Fillmore, who's previously manager of HRM by Design and is moving on to Dalhousie as director of the School of Planning. And we're going to hear from Noel Fowler, who's the Nova Centre architect. So these are the people who we're going to hear from tonight. And the intention here is to try and give you as much upfront information as we can so that we can inform the public debate as we move into it. We're really trying to provide as much context, right? As much of the information that needs to be in place so that you can then get into conversations around, okay, knowing that, here's what we would like to see in the heart of the downtown. So I'm just going to pass it straight over to Joe to begin for us. And this whole piece should take us 25 minutes. That's it. So there's 25 minutes of information coming your way, and then the whole rest of the evening is us talking to each other.
The question has come up, why are we doing this project? Me, my partners, and our investors, we believe in Halifax and Nova Scotia and the potential the future holds. We believe this is the right project at the right time for the city of Halifax and the province of Nova Scotia. It is our hope and belief that the synergy of the components in the complex will act as a catalyst for economic growth and will make a significant contribution toward a vibrant downtown. This project comprises many aspects, as you can see there. It is 1 million square feet of space. It is a true mixed-use project. Most of us have only heard about the convention center, but there's a lot more to this project than the convention center. The convention center is about 28%, 29% of this project, so there's a lot more to this project. There's a financial center, there'll be a luxury hotel, residences, retail, entertainment amenities, public space, and parking. Although we only heard lately about the convention center, a big part of this is the financial center. Most people have asked, what is a financial center? And what does it mean to the city? A financial center is basically office space that is dedicated to the financial industry, where they come together, work, and play together. If you look at New York, if you look at Toronto, London, you'll see there is a financial district where all companies seem to come together and work. We had a major company in town from the US. We said, are you looking for exclusivity? They said, no. We want you to put as many people in the financial industry as you can in these buildings. So now what does it mean? What it means is we're graduating, we're subsidizing the universities here for every kid that goes to school. And then we send them out to the world to get a job. This convention center will hopefully have jobs for these people that are graduating. And the people in the financial industry have already told us this can be a great financial city. And the reasons are because of our workforce, the universities that we have here, because of our geographical positioning, our time zone, our lifestyle, and the cost of operation. There's been many companies that have come and set up here already. There's a lot of companies that are looking to come here, and they all have said this city can be a great financial center. So that is a major part of this complex over and above what the convention center is and the rest of the pieces in this project. To the question of the gentleman that's sitting here, this will be the largest green building in Atlantic Canada. We will be working toward to achieve LEED Gold. So everything that we've done from the minute we started, before we even tore down the building, We have a consultant who is advising us what can and what can we do to make sure that we do everything as environmentally friendly as we can. So this will be the largest green building in Atlantic Canada. As I said earlier, we hope this will be a catalyst for economic growth. It will create many jobs. There will be tax revenue, tourism, entertainment, and a gathering place for people to gather, and of all walks, from whether they're in Nova Scotia or whether they're coming from outside. It is located in the heart of the financial and entertainment district. So we should be able to really have an impact on the downtown area. All the talk lately has been about the convention center. When we made the announcement 2 weeks ago today, we announced two things. The first thing was we are going to build the Nova Center. And the second, we announced that the convention center will be our first tenant. Nova Center, including the convention center, is being built entirely at the developer's cost and risk. On completion, the relationship between the province and the developer will be that the tenant, as a tenant and landlord, as with all tenants, the province will pay lease payment to the landlord, and as well it will be responsible for its own leasehold improvement. So that is the relationship that we have with the province and with the convention center. It is a lease, and they will be paying for their own tenant improvements. Our aspiration are for the Nova Center that it will position Atlantic Canada as a nucleus for people to come together, to connect, share new ideas, and celebrate. Nova Center will connect Nova Scotian with each other and the world. It will attract more people to the province and make a significant contribution to a vibrant downtown. The community engagement. Under HRM by design, our obligation were to do one session. We are holding 11. The size and height of the development and our obligation to tenants are defined. Now, saying that, the project has to make financial sense. With all the view planes that we have encountered and the height restriction that we have under the view planes, and with the rampart, which we are within the ramparts, within the view planes, we need to be at the heights that we are. Other than that, your input will influence the look and feel, the public space, the streetscape, and what you want the convention center to be, and what does it say about us as Nova Scotian. The design, as you can see, we have no pictures. We shelved the original designs that we've had because we've had many comments and feedbacks from the people that have that we've met. So the design is continuing to evolve, and it will reflect the input that we get from this engagement, and will be released in the fall. We have had lots of meetings and discussions so far, and there is a lot more to come. One of the main suggestions is for the convention center to be iconic and more glass and more light, and we heard that again on Monday night. So we are looking at the options of how can that happen, even though, as I said initially, it was to be 2 floors below. We are looking at how that's possible and how we can come back to you and show you how we can do that. Tim, that's it.
Hey, Scott.
Thanks a lot, Tim. In fact, I think I'll stay over here. It's a lot cooler than it might be over there, Joe. I'm not sure, next to the door. I wanted to offer a few comments, of course, on the convention center development portion of the Nova Center. I've been in this business, obviously, for a very long time, but it's really been only the last 3 years, I think I've spent more time traveling throughout Nova Scotia, speaking to Nova Scotians on this project, which really highlighted for me the reason that I got into this business to begin with. I look at this business, this convention business or events business, quite simply as the people business. And I look at it from three perspectives. It's about attracting people from all around the world to our community, to our city, to our province. It's about working together to make sure we fully understand the benefits that are available to us from those events that we attract. And maybe most importantly of all, it's a matter of working together, ensure that we not only extract those benefits, but we push them through the entire province. Now, from a benefit perspective, the discussion often starts on the economic side of things. And from that perspective, we've estimated, and we've published these numbers on our website, that this development, the convention center portion, will generate over 1,700 person-years of employment during the construction phase, in addition to $9.5 million in provincial tax revenue. Also, during the first 10 years of operation, those same estimates show that this development will generate an additional 27,000 person-years of employment and an additional $85 million in provincial tax revenue. And I really think that's important because we need to secure this revenue from somewhere. The majority of it comes from visitors from outside our province and outside our country. But the spending takes place in Nova Scotia. It gets spent through the entire province on our hospitals, our roads, and our schools. But the benefits flow well beyond that. A new convention center in Halifax, in my view, will allow us to partner with communities all across Nova Scotia, delivering some joint programs in tourism and other areas. But it will also allow us to leverage the millions, if not billions of dollars that we've already spent in very specific specialties. We know that Halifax is recognized around the world as a result of our research institutions and our universities for work done in very important areas. And gentlemen referenced healthcare a few moments ago, because I view when we host an international conference in Halifax, what we are is in fact the world center for that discipline, whether or not it's healthcare or biomagnetic engineering or medical informatics or biomarine. We in fact are the world capital for that discipline for an entire week. And we have a full 3 years to essentially work together to make sure that we identify and extract every opportunity that's available to us as a result of that activity. So it gives us that opportunity, I think, to be very targeted and focused on the groups and the benefits that we try to generate for our province. The other thing that doesn't get spoken about a whole lot, and it really isn't lip service, but it's important to our success, is the fact that I feel that we're building a community with this development. And I think that's really important for a bunch of different reasons. I think we need to build a center that makes Nova Scotians proud. If we ever can get to the point of making Atlantic Canadians proud of something that happens in Halifax, but certainly to make Nova Scotians and Haligonians proud for what we've developed. It needs to be a center that is used for festivals and celebrations and showcases. It needs to be a facility where children are being are earning, or have jobs and have an opportunity to earn some money. But it needs to be a place that we're all proud of. What I wanted to do actually is reference three comments that I've gotten over the last few years, and why I've remembered those comments. The first one actually came from a meeting planner of international events about 2 years ago, and she said that Halifax was a real city with real people. And her point was that her delegates experienced the most authentic experience they've ever had in this city and this province. And I think we need to remember that we are very good at that. We are very natural in how we host and how we interchange and react with visitors, and it's a strength of ours. The second comment actually came from someone recently who was arguing against the convention center, And their point was that we should not be investing in a convention center, we should be investing in something that we're good at. Well, we're good at this. In fact, we're not just good at it, I think we're the best in the country at it. And when you look around the city, whether or not it's a World Championships or the Tall Ships last week or a major conference, and see the kind of excitement, enthusiasm that we see on the street that you don't see anywhere else in the world, and you combine that with the first comment from a meeting planner, is I think we're great at events hosting here. It's something that we naturally do well. We've got this wonderful downtown precinct, we've got this wonderful population that are very comfortable in the delegate or visitor setting. We need to invest and we need to lever that. And the third comment actually came just from the town hall on Monday night. And that comment had to do with the fact that if we're going to build a convention center, let's make sure that we build the best convention center in the world. Now, when you hear that, that's daunting, that's aggressive, that might scare a few people. But when you put the second comment into context, which is let's redefine what this convention business is all about, it begins to make a lot more sense. If you look at this from a perspective of the people side of the business that I spoke about earlier, and if you look at building a center that Nova Scotians are proud of, that Nova Scotians use, that Nova Scotians participate in, building a center that attracts international innovators and thinkers and investors from around the world and making them comfortable, bringing them together with Nova Scotians in a very comfortable, unique environment, and making sure that we extract a lot of benefit and we push those benefits to the entire province, I really think that we will have taken a major step in creating, in fact, the best convention center in the entire world, which is not just this building, it's the entire precinct, the entire city, and the entire province. So that's why I'm excited about this process. I'm excited to participate in all 11 of these over the next few months, and I really look forward to having a significant impact, hopefully, during the coming year. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. And we asked Andy Fillmore to come in before Noel spoke specifically about the building, just to give some context, both of like, where's the downtown at, and where are we kind of heading in terms of downtown Halifax, and that to provide some context to then the development as a whole. May I? Do you want me to put it up for you?
Please, that'd be great.
Tell me that's working.
It's black slide, that's fine. Ta-da. Yeah, there you go, nice. Okay, here, I'll hand this back to you. All right. Done. All right, thank you, good evening. It's a beautiful night on the Halifax Seaport. I'm very glad to be here. My name is Andy Fillmore. I'm pleased to be here and have been asked to present some thoughts about the present and the future of downtown Halifax. And that downtown Halifax, which is the urban core of this municipality and really the downtown of the province. Next week, as Tim said, I'll be the director of the School of Planning at Dalhousie. In fact, tonight is my last official act as an HRM official, so it's just kind of a nice turning point for me. Oh. Thank you. That's not why I said it, but thank you very much. That's very kind. But for one more night at least, one more day, I'm still an HRM employee, and that's the voice that you'll hear from me this evening. But even so, whatever it is that I'm going to say to you here tonight is something that I would say as Citizen Fillmore, or as Professor Fillmore, or as Andy. So these are things that I believe in from my heart. Specifically, the context that I've been asked to bring here is the larger context for tonight's discussions about the Nova Center. So that context begins with the understanding that a healthy urban core is the most powerful tool that we have available for addressing the rapidly emerging financial and environmental challenges facing all cities. A vibrant and prosperous urban core, no matter where in the world it is highly sustainable because of its density, its walkability, its use of existing bought and paid for infrastructure, and its services that are already here as well. But we have to remember when talking about the downtown in Halifax that that Nova Scotia is really a community of communities. And the diversity of living arrangement that's possible in Nova Scotia, from urban to suburban to rural, from seaside to forest to farm, is one of our greatest strengths in the world. And that's an asset that really needs to be nurtured. If given the opportunity, the urban core of Halifax can create wealth with which to support amenities and services for all of Nova Scotia's communities. This was borne out in a 2009 report prepared by the Premier's Economic Advisory Committee called Addressing Nova Scotia's Fiscal Challenge. And this report found that, quote, the prospects for Nova Scotia are now inextricably linked to the success of its largest urban area, end quote. And those findings support also the Conference Board of Canada's 2006 designation of HRM as the hub city of Atlantic Canada. And it also highlighted the need to focused investment within the urban core to ensure the fiscal health of the municipality, the province, and the Maritimes beyond. And with the recent economic uncertainty in some areas of the province, these realities and the actions with which we choose to address them have never been more important. Over the last several decades, HRM has seen enormous growth in investment in its suburban areas, while over the same period of time, the urban core and downtown Halifax have seen a steady loss of population, jobs, and both private and public investment to outlying, low-density, car-oriented areas. In fact, in the past 5 years alone, low-density suburban and rural areas have captured 12% more residential growth than anticipated by our 25-year growth plan called the Regional Plan. While at the same time, the urban core, also known as the regional center, has captured 36% less than anticipated. Over the past 4 years, the suburban market has captured 96% of all office built in HRM, while the downtown has only seen 4% of that growth. This imbalance has far-reaching implications for the environment, for public health, resource and energy consumption, our ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and municipal servicing costs, and therefore the stability of our tax rate. Because this situation simply cannot be sustained in a rapidly changing world, we're faced with a moral urgency to densify population, jobs, and both public and private investment in the dense, compact, walkable regional center, which you can see on the slide here is comprised of the Halifax Peninsula and the area of Dartmouth inside the arc of the Circumferential Highway. Because of this urgency, HRM has been very clear in the last several years in renewing its focus on the regional center. The renewed focus has come in the form of 5 major initiatives, which I have had the pleasure of being and honor of being intimately involved with. They are the HRM by Design Downtown Halifax Plan, which reinvented planning and development in our downtown so that we could begin to rebuild a beautiful, vibrant, and prosperous downtown. The HRM by Design Center Plan, which promises to do for the entire regional center what the downtown plan did for downtown. The Regional Plan 5-year review, through which the citizens of this community have already said that the regional center must be better positioned to attract growth and investment so that our collective wish for a sustainable future can be realized. An initiative known as Capital Ideas, leveraging urban investment for regional prosperity, which is a very candid assessment of the challenges facing the urban core, and a detailed blueprint for addressing those challenges. And finally, a Greater Halifax, HRM's 2011 to 2016 economic strategy, which in unmistakable tones sets out the case for public and private investment in the urban core to reach its stated goal of building a vibrant and attractive regional center which attracts $1.5 billion of private investment and 8,000 more residents by 2016. And those incredible efforts have begun to pay dividends. That hard work is paying off. It's easy to see in these 7 major development projects that have been approved through the new downtown plan since its adoption in 2009, and by the recent appearance of a multitude of construction cranes on our skyline. And as a result, in the past few years, we have seen more private development activity in the downtown of Halifax than we had seen in the previous 20 years combined. So this hard work is paying off, and we're at the beginning of something. We've seen this community come together around the skating oval on the Commons, a project that has redefined how we experience winter in this city. We've seen the community embrace the sands at Salter, a wonderful gift from the Waterfront Development Corporation that delights us as residents alongside every visitor to the waterfront. And it's certainly been easy to see by the emergence on Spring Garden Road day by day of the new Central Public Library, which is heralding a new and progressive era in the history of our city in which we embrace change, embrace opportunity, and in which we all answer our city's call to do better for our city. The new life that is being breathed back into our city is the result of hard work, the result of innovation, the result of deep engagement and dialogue with this community, and the result of a willingness on the part of this community to take creative risks, a willingness to set aside cynicism and apathy. And those are the things that are being asked of us now as we undertake to build our center. The library and some of the other projects I have shown, and now the Nova Center, are pieces of cultural infrastructure that are the beginnings of a winning hand for Halifax and for all Nova Scotians. And we are all free to dream about what other projects might make that winning hand even stronger. What we're seeing at long last is the upward spiral being put into motion, the upward spiral in which a successful urban core will uplift the entire province, which is what we learned in a previous slide from the Premier's Economic Advisory Panel and from the Conference Board of Canada, that again, the prospects for Nova Scotia are now inextricably linked to the success of its largest urban area. It starts by improving the livability, beauty, and functionality of the regional center. In doing so, we draw a critical mass of people to live and work and do business downtown, which in turn creates economic activity, commerce, and prosperity. This prosperity can then be directed toward investment in cultural initiatives, cultural infrastructure, such as libraries, recreation centers, performing arts venues, art galleries, which in turn further improves the livability, and the upward spiral continues on and on. All we need to do is place our hand on that wheel and give it a little spin to get it going. Tonight, everyone here has made the time and found the courage to help uplift Halifax for the benefit of all Nova Scotians, and I thank you for that, and also for your kind attention.
Sandy. Cheers, man. So our last speaker is Noel Fowler, who's the architect for the Nova Centre. So we invited him to speak. He's going to speak for about 10 minutes, and then it's going to be all you. So hang in there for 10 more minutes, and I think a lot of the context here is the stuff that really informs where we go. So while I put these up. Yeah, I guess. It's a picture of me and my wife.
Thanks, Tim. It seems as though I've been working on this project forever, on and off, so it's great to see some help show up. I'm really looking forward to your input. I think it's a great project for Halifax, and the more we get from you guys, the better it'll be. This process should have happened a long time ago, but it really couldn't have. When we successfully landed the project, I don't know when that was, 3 or 4 years ago now, we made a commitment to do just this, have public engagement, but the project was not actually announced till 2 weeks ago, so it would be premature to do this before today, and a little presumptuous. I mean, consulting about what? Is this a project or not? It was always a proposal. Also, I think the province and the city will be wondering what we're consulting about because they haven't made a decision. So it's really a long time coming, but now that it's here, I think it's great for everyone. I haven't been through this consultation process before. I don't think many people have. It's new to the city, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a valuable thing. I guess the other thing I'll clear up, there have been designs floating around for the last few years also, and there's a reason for that. It was done without your consultation, but it was done in order for us to respond to a requirement from the province to guarantee the cost and guarantee the schedule. And you really can't do that without actually drawing the thing and testing, how many square feet is this, what are these volumes, what could it be made of, what kind of structural system might you need. You need all these things in place so that you can go to the market, find out what the real costs are, and that's what we did. And we did it a number of times, and we're comfortable now with the numbers. So we do know what the volumes are and the square footages are, but what it actually looks like, it's not so dependent on that because we're carrying numbers that will accommodate several different options. So that's the story on the designs that were floating around. Now we're going to actually, we can take the word proposal off the table. It's not proposal, it's real now. So if you guys want to join in and help, it's going to be tough, but I think it'll be worth it. Again, I think it's really important for Halifax. We can either kind of make it or break it with this thing, but I think we're going to make it. So I guess we can get some things out of the way. I guess before we can talk, we need some context in terms of the nuts and bolts of you know, how does this thing fit into Halifax? And this is Halifax. I guess, well, we can go to the next slide and see where we are here. I'm not going to spend much time on this. Everyone knows where the project is. But the red thing there, and I know I was sitting back there, and you can't read anything. So anyway, the red thing is Nova Centre. It's within walking distance of 10 hotels. It's a block away from Metro Centre. It's in the entertainment district. I think it's the right place for a convention centre. Convention centres, and I've looked at an awful lot of them. The further they are away from the center of a city, the worse they do, and often fail on the periphery of a city. So I think, and I guess one more thing, when I go to conventions, and I don't go to a lot of them, but when I do go, I mean, the first thing is, where is it? So if it's in Moncton, and nothing against Moncton, I may not go, but if it's in, you know, New Orleans, I definitely would go. And I think the point is, people go to conventions not because it's a great convention center. They go for the city. That's what they really go for. And I think we will have a great convention center, but they're not going to come to see that. They're going to come because of Halifax. So it's the right location. So we can go on. This is just a little 2D information. It's 2 city blocks bounded by Prince, Argyle, Sackville, Market Street. It comprises about 95,000 square feet. And at the bottom there, you'll see this is a section through the site. And what it's really showing is that from Argyle Street to Market Street, it's about 35 feet rise. So that's like, you know, over a 3-story building. So it's quite a steep slope site, and that makes it a little more interesting. Flat sites are easy to build on, but they're not really full of much interest. This is a really interesting site. So the next slide would be how, and so that's a 2D thing. We've got about 95,000 square feet to work with in plan. And so how high can we go? How does that determine? Halifax has 2 kind of major, I guess we can just go back for 1 second there. There's two things that determine that, and they're both determined from the Citadel. One is there are 10 view planes that radiate out from the Citadel over Halifax, and that's one way of determining height. If you're under that, if you're not under the view plane, the other way height is determined is through the ramparts. So that's already, it's from the Citadel. Yeah, so now we can go to the next slide. So, and you can't read any of this stuff. Here you're inside the Citadel. This is a rampart. So when you're inside the Citadel looking at the rampart, you get an angle like this. And so what that does, it says you can build only as high as these ramparts. And the idea there is to preserve the integrity of the fort and the experience of being in a 17th century fort, looking around. All you see is ramparts and blue sky. It would change the experience totally if the building projected above that. So that's the ramparts. The view plane's a little more complicated. We can go to the next slide there, Tim. And so here are the view planes. There are 10 of them, and hate to block things. Anyway, so the site is impacted by 2. This one, I think, is view plane 6 and view plane 4. So here's a blow up of it. Here's the 2 city blocks. Here's view plane 6 and view plane 4. So view plane 6 basically controls about 30% of the site, and view plane 4 probably, I don't know, 5 or 6% of the site. So here we're limited under the view planes, and here we're limited under the ramparts. And now there's a quick video in case you're not really clear on what's happening there. And this will just kind of fly you around so you can see how these view planes impact the site. So that's a view plane there. This is another view plane, and this is the ramparts. So there's the 3 influences on the site. You see the ramparts are much higher than the view planes. If you see Maritime Center, MT&T building, you'll see it just skirts by the side of the view plane, and is not impacted by the ramparts there either. So this is not a design, it's really an envelope within which we have to work. So it's known, obviously wouldn't build something like that, but it's just saying this is the extremities, this is how far the building can be pushed, this is the envelope within which we'll be working in terms of height, volume, and things. You can see view plane 6 here, cutting this thing down and this thing down. So that's view planes and ramparts. Anyway, I thought that was important because a lot of people aren't exactly sure how they influence a site. Where are we going next? Oh, you got to get back in here. Okay. So the toughest thing about this project, I mean, it's every project comes with its own baggage, and some things are more difficult to deal with than others. With this project, the convention center has really 2 huge spaces that need to be accommodated. One is the ballroom with the front of house and back of house. The front of house of the ballroom is where people arrive, register, have a drink, talk before they go into the function. And the back of house would be all the support it needs: kitchens, storage, service areas, that kind of thing. So the ballroom needs totally about 79,000 square feet. The ballroom itself, the area is about 30,000, which is like 7 basketball courts, 25 feet high, column free. So these are huge spaces, and the exhibition hall is equally, monstrous. It's 74,000 square feet. So in the project, office things are easy to deal with, stores, shopping, all kinds of hotel things are not, these are monstrous spaces. So the real challenge that will keep reoccurring as we go through this was how do you accommodate such huge spaces? So that's what that's there for, and we can go to the next. So this will bring back heartburn for some people, but this is what we looked at one time, and this really shows a response to the province's program, or the Trade Center's program, for those kinds of square footages to fit on that site. One approach would be to do what this is doing, and that is, let's see, yeah, so Market, Grafton, Argyle. So you enter at half story on Argyle and go down a half story, and that's the ballroom area, or up half story and out again. So all the pre-function would get light, and after that, there that is, and under that would be the exhibition. So that was one approach to handling it. But when we did that, we were testing it. This is a legitimate way to do it, another legitimate way to do it, and I think the way most people are going to want to do it, and I actually preferred, and that is moving the ballroom. We can go to the next one here. Moving the ballroom above grade, so that's, this now would be the back of house, ballroom, front of house, Argyle Street here, and the exhibition below, well, half below, like a half a story down, so the exhibition is actually visible from Argyle, so you walk in, down half floor, and that's the exhibition area. So these are 2 things we're looking at, and I'm sure by the time we get through this, we'll be looking at all kinds of other things. But these are 2 options. But always got to remember, how do you handle such huge spaces? So here's 2 ways to do it. So we can go on to another one. So that's I thought it was a basket, but it's a building. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about scale. Because of the ballroom and the exhibition space, the issue of scale is going to be big for us. So I thought, okay, people say scale, what do you mean by scale? And so that's what I mean by scale. How could you say it any better? I mean, without the trees, you would think it's a basket, but I think the trees are telling us, well, that's a building. So there's these cues that throw your senses off to what scale really is. And I got a few more horrible examples here. So there's another, juxtaposition of 2 scales, not happily working together. And I think there's, so these are crazy things, but they really exist. But I'm just kind of bringing up the subject of scale. So someday when we're talking about scale, we say, oh yeah, that. So that's what that's about. Another kind of funny thing that's happening there, and we can just keep on going. This is a convention center, I think, in Buffalo. So another problem with scale. I mean, the convention center we're talking about is that kind of size. So, I mean, but do you need to do that? So that's what that's there for, is basically to say, you know, if you're not careful, you end up with these kinds of monsters. And we're aware of it. It's all a scale kind of problem. And that's what we need to address. So lots of discussion that will happen, I'm sure, is going to be about scale. So where are we now? And this is another, what is this, Scotia Square? Just another, I mean, this has been there forever. They're trying to reduce the scale now by putting in some windows. And I think they really work, they really help. It was way better than it was 20 years ago. But it's there you go, so scale. And this is a spot I reserved for when we finally resolve the problem, because these guys here are probably no more than 2 inches tall, right? But it's all a matter of scale. So we'll put the solution in there in 3 or 4 months. So now I just want to talk about sidewalks for a second. Sidewalks are really like the living room of a city. And the better the sidewalk, the better the city, and the reverse is true. If you've got horrible sidewalks, you probably have a horrible city. So I think it's 3 to 4 minutes? Okay. So just move on. There's another happy sidewalk, and you keep going. And so now this is Halifax. I mean, there was no effort here to accommodate people. The thing is, building owners have a responsibility to make their tenants happy and do what they need to make the tenants come and stay and have a smile on their face. But they equally have a responsibility to the city to do the same thing. You know, what does the city, what does the public want? It hasn't been done here. But they spent a lot, because if you go back, you see all the money they spent on the polished granite. If you took that money, you could have done a much better job on that sidewalk. And so we're on the next one. This is Grafton Street. It's another kind of unhappy sidewalk. If you don't think about it, that's what you get. Now, here's someone who thought about it, but in the wrong way, I think. I've never seen anyone use it. It looks like this welcoming portico. Well, it doesn't actually look welcoming, but that was the intention, but it doesn't work. And you can't do it by, let's do it all in glass and the problem is over. Here's one in glass, and it's still the same kind of problem. It doesn't say, why don't you slow down? So here are the kind of things that can happen if you think through it. And I think they're the kind of things that we need to think about with Nova Centre. I mean, all around it. How the building meets the sidewalk, I think, is really important. So we can just keep on going there, Tim. And so, so you go. So Halifax does know how to do this. I mean, this is one of the great sidewalks. I mean, it's fantastic. So if we're not careful, and if we don't do it right, we'll not only kill that half the sidewalk, but likely this also. So we have a responsibility to actually build on that, and that's what I hope we can do, and we will do. This is on Grafton Street. I was just walking around one day. I mean, this is great little things. So public art, I think, another thing, we have public spaces should be placed also to get some public art happening. It says to people that you care about the place, you have some value for art. And I mean, it's a chance to celebrate those things. And where do you do it? Do you hide it in the museum? Put it out in the street, put it on the sidewalk. That's what that's there for. Another one, it's the same kind of thing. I think that invigorates the sidewalk and invigorates the area and makes people feel good. So we can move to the next one. Back to that one. I like this one. This is a sidewalk art. This is chalk work, but I mean, it's pretty neat. So why not encourage that kind of thing? All these things help to make it a kind of a living room experience and a social experience. So we can go on to, and this is, I just threw this in to say one way to look at these things is the building and the sidewalk are kind of in partnership, and they really depend on each other to succeed. So lots of transparency, lots of accessibility, and so you can keep on moving. I'm skipping a lot of things. So the word iconic keeps coming up. So I thought, okay, iconic. So Halifax. So what's iconic? I mean, the Parliament buildings are iconic. The seats of government are iconic. Special places of worship. Courthouses. So I mean, this is an iconic thing. And then the next slide would be, but you don't have to be big to be iconic. I think this derives its iconicism from its shape, but mostly its history. And so it's iconic because what it means to the city, you know, where it came from, who put it there. So that's a kind of an iconic thing. And the parking garage can be iconic. This is in Miami Beach. And I think it's great. I mean, so this is someone who said, okay, we need a parking garage, let's build a parking garage, but let's celebrate it. Let's make it more than a parking garage. Let's have fun with it. I'm sure it costs more than an ordinary parking garage, but I think it's a good attitude about parking garages. Here's a real iconic building. This is, I think it's Disney Performance Center in Los Angeles. We don't have that kind of budget, but I threw it in there because I think you don't have to think in square boxes, and so that's there. And so he liked it so much he did it again. This is in Bilbao, Spain, is a Guggenheim. Again, iconic, and I've read about this. I mean, what that did for the city. The city was like on its knees. They built this, and it's alive. I mean, they put in new railway tracks just to get people in to visit this place. So buildings can have a real impact. I really like this building. This is the Ottawa Convention Center, just finished. It's about a comparable size to what we're building in terms of its square footage, in terms of programming, the kinds of things it can do. So that's I put that there. Just okay, we can go on. So now and we're done in about a minute. So the way I want to finish is I was walking down the street one day in Paris, and it's just this old neighborhood, you know, I don't know, 5, 6-story buildings, all of them, you know, 1700s, 1800s maybe. And then I walked around the corner and I saw this. I was shocked. I was, whoa, what's going on? And I thought, well, who let them do that? I mean, how do you, and especially when you come from Halifax, right? So what I liked about this is it's fun, it's got color in it. And so then I thought about Halifax. How do buildings look in the rain? And the palette we have here is brick and sandstone. And when it rains, it really looks a lot sadder than it really is. So that's why I threw some of this stuff in here. You know, the convention center should move away from brick and sandstone. That said something about the 1800s, 1900s. This is 2012. We don't need any more brick and sandstone as far as I'm concerned. I think we should be, you know, really contemporary, express ourselves as, you know, from here forward, and not be so silly to try to, you know. Anyway, so I'm throwing these colors in because I think part of the palette for this project probably should be color on a building. So, I mean, if you walked through sandstone and brick and then turned the corner and tripped over that, you'd probably put a smile on your face. I mean, there's a book called The Architecture of Happiness, and that's part of it. So, and this is just to say, you know, don't think of facades of buildings as flat things. They don't need to be flat things. So there it is. I threw all those last things in just to say, look, you know, open up and here's part of a palette. And thank you, that's it. Okay.
Thank you. All right. So, let's get to it now. I gotta find the right. Here we are. So, very quickly, we're going to work with World Cafe. The way World Cafe works is that you have conversations at your tables for about 10 to 15 minutes. We ask a question. Once you've finished that conversation for 10-15 minutes, one person stays at the table, everyone else stands up and moves to a different table. The reason we're doing this is because we're trying to connect together as many different and diverse perspectives as possible. The more different perspectives meet each other here, the more wisdom we're all accessing. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're mixing it up. Plus it's fun, plus it means you're not going to get stuck at a table you don't feel good at. All right, so they're going to be about 10-15 minutes each round. One person's going to stay behind, everyone else is going to move. The person who stays behind, you're the table host. So your job is when people come to your table, you're like, welcome to my table, it's good to have you here, thank you for coming, all right? And you get to give them a little intro to what people have been talking about beforehand. Here in 30 seconds is what we covered last time, all right? So this is how we're going to roll. Some things to think about as you go into World Cafe, just very quickly, some things to think about. The quality of conversation at the table depends on you. Facilitate yourselves and others. If you're sitting at a table where one person's running the conversation, please invite them to be quiet and invite everyone else to join in the conversation. If you're sitting at a table where maybe two people haven't been heard, invite them to be part of it. Speak with your mind and heart. We need both your emotions and your mind. Not everything you say needs to be backed up by data. If it's a feeling, that is just as welcome as good information or intellectual ideas. Link and connect ideas. So this is one important thing I would just like to draw your attention to. What we're looking for in World Cafe is what's coming up again and again and again and again and again. What are the things that keep turning up from multiple different people again in the conversations? That could be insights, that could be clarity, that could be questions. What are those things that are turning up again and again? Because they don't belong to one particularly loud, articulate individual. They belong to more than that. They start beginning to belong to a room. So please listen for what's recurring, because those things are indicative of public voice rather than individual voice. And then the last thing is, once you get into your conversation, if there's silence at the table, just enjoy it for a while. Please don't fill it for the sake of it. Rather wait until there's something heartfelt or meaningful to say than fill it with something for the sake of saying it. So although we only have just under 45 minutes to go, let's not just fill it for the sake of it. Let's use it well and wisely. Okay? And of course, focus on what matters. England just lost today to Senegal in the GB Olympics, and that's obviously tragic, but that is not the topic of conversation tonight. The topic of conversation tonight is the vision for the Nova Centre. Please play doodle and draw in your tables. We've got paper there so you can record your notes. So as people move tables, they can see what's come up, and people have already been doing that, which is fantastic. Feel free to use images as well as words. Sometimes those are the things that spark people way more than an essay on the table is an image, because you can sit down and you can get it immediately, right? Great, so the first thing we wanted to do is to just get your experience. You've heard from the experiences of Andy, you've heard from the experiences of Joe and Scott and Noel, and so the first question for you, just at your tables, is what's your best experience of a building positively influencing the downtown? And the reason we're doing this as well is we don't want this conversation to be pie in the sky. We don't want this conversation to be some conceptually out there dialogue. We want it to be rooted in your experience of what you know works. That's where we want it to be grounded, okay? So, turn to your neighbors.
It would be great if we could have tables of about 4. So if you're sitting in a twosome or a onesome, it would be really great if you could join people.
Great.
And just a reminder, in about 45 minutes, this room is going to be giving advice to Noel and Joe about the design principles for this building. So this is really our chance right now to contribute to how this building is going to look.
Bagged. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're getting right into it. So this next question is, how you doing? This next question is taking us into the content now. So, and I don't want you to lose your experience. So what I don't want to happen as we go into this next round is suddenly we're all like, if only da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like keep this rooted in your experience of what works, places you've been, experiences you've had of buildings that work for you and work for the cities you've been to, lived in, interacted with, okay? So the question now is, how would you like to interact with the Nova Centre? How would we like this building to interact with the city? So what's the relationship? How are you going to use this place? Because before we can define our vision for the overall look and feel, we need to understand how we want it to interact with the cityscape, how you're going to be interacting with it as a person who lives there, as a citizen of the city. If this was going to appear on a postcard, let's make sure we understand that it's going to work for us, right? So the conversation now at the tables, how would you like to interact with the Nova Centre? How would you like this building to interact with the city? Over to the tables. We'll come back to you in 10 to 15 minutes. Go. Hello again. I know it's a good conversation when I feel like I'm interrupting it. All right, so this is the last time you're going to change tables. So pick your companions well. If one person can stay behind, everyone else can move. Change tables one last time. We're going to give you the crunch question, and then we'll move into this. Will be a last round of conversation tonight. So please, one person stay behind, everyone else change tables. It doesn't have to be the same person staying behind. It does not have to be the same person staying behind. Everyone else move. If you're still sitting at the table, you're now sitting in someone else's seat. Huh? Make sure you get it out there. Yeah. Okay. And put it on a post-it.
I haven't got a post-it yet.
No, it's true. Grab a table, find people you don't know. Tables of 4 if possible. If it's a table of 5, that probably means someone's going to get crunched for time to speak. So if there's a table of 5, try shifting it. There's tables of 2 over here and there. Tables of 4 is the perfect number for a decent human conversation. We got an empty table right here that we need some humans over here. I feel like I'm running a game show. Okay, so if I can have your attention for 30 seconds before we go into this last round. So this one is kind of the crunch question, right? This one's the crunch question. Based on your best experience, based upon how you feel that you would like to interact with the city, and how you would like to see the Nova Center interact with the city and how the city would interact with the Nova Center, what are the essential elements you would like the architect to bring into the design? What are the principles that you would like to see guide this development? That's the conversation. That's the conversation we're asking for. And I'm also asking your permission to go to 9:15 tonight. My speakers stretch slightly longer, and I think this portion of it is incredibly important. So I'm going to push it to 9:15, and if you have to leave, I'm really sad to lose you. But I'm going to push it to 9:15 so we get a chance to capture as much of you as we can. And then I promise we'll be done by then. So what are the most essential elements that you would like the architect to bring into the design? What are the principles to guide this so we can come back with renderings October 3rd into the city? Now we're on the crunch question. In a minute, there's going to be post-its on the table. Each table is going to get 3 post-its. So we're asking you to come up with a whole load of ideas, and then we're asking you to converge that into 3 key ones that you will not negotiate. These are your damn, don't let these ones go. Those are the ones we're looking for. And I'm not looking for the one that one person on the table convinces everyone else is a good idea. I'm not looking for that. Don't be bullied into things. I'm looking for ones that the majority of your table agrees on. Things that inspire the group you're sitting in. Great, post-its will turn up on your tables in about 5 minutes. Have a good conversation. What are the essential elements? Okay. So, what we're going to do, I had this exciting plan at the beginning of the night where one person was going to read. I'm not even going to tell you about it. Come back to me. How you doing? So what we're doing is we're collecting the post-its, and we are clustering them up on the wall. I have to put my hands in the air and say that I had another process designed to do that, but we started slightly later, and my speakers went on slightly longer, and so I want to make sure we're all out of here by 9:15. But I wanted to do a process whereby someone would read their post-it, and if others felt theirs connected to it, they would put it up, and then we would collect them. So you would actually cluster your own. But today I've defaulted just to get everybody out by 9:15 and try and respect people's timing. But we'll work with that next time. So just while they're clustering, what I wanted to do was to hear just what are some of the things that have come up at the tables that were kind of most exciting for you. So what is it that when you said it, everybody kind of leaned in? What were some of those things? And we'll just hear a few of them while those guys are clustering.
Color.
Color. There we go.
up with a great idea.
Oh, to bring life up to the roof.
Bring life up to the roof. Great, thank you.
Color again.
Color again. Do that.
We said light.
Light. Lots of light. Great.
Connectedness.
To
The city.
great.
We talked about accessibility, and we don't mean just physical accessibility. We mean this has to be accessible to not just visitors coming in from away, but to all of us, the diverse communities in Nova Scotia. Cultural accessibility, social accessibility, broad, economic accessibility.
Don't price us out.
World-leading passive design.
Can you, without spending too long describing what you mean by passive, just so we understand a one-sentence?
Okay, this is a challenge to developer team. Go for LEED Platinum and get the best building engineers on the planet, like TransSolar, for example. And without that, you will not make it.
Right. Anything from this table?
Can I just hang on to that for 1 sec, though?
Yeah, read it.
All right. Okay, so this came up in all 3 sessions, and it came up in all 3 sessions for everyone at the table. So this is about the edges of the project. Edges of the project must blur with the city by being porous, human-scaled, and punctuated by retail, public art, and places of repose, all at a variety of sizes and character, and also introduce nature, trees, rock, and water.
That gets a round of applause, Andy. Take that. Anything else? Things that.
One that we came up with along the way was multi-use, year-round multi-use, multi-service accessibility and commutability as well.
Anyone over here?
Our table said that if this building is really going to do its job, it's got to catch the attentions of Atlantic Canada, and we've got to be willing to try to catch the attention of Atlantic Canada. I think I got that right.
I think I'll just bring up transparency. We want to make sure that what happens inside this building is expressed on the outside, and that a passerby sees the activity within, and people within can see the city outside.
Great. You can see in, people can look out. Great. You ready at the wall? One there.
One of the other design aspects we talked about was to make the building memorable, so that when people came to the city, they would walk away with a positive impression of the city, but even more so that this building would add a distinctive character that accentuates what is great about Halifax.
Did we get anything?
I'd like to see the first tower that actually powers itself from zero to point energy, using the Tesla coil or any of that type of technology that's been out there for 10, 20 years, and that I think we have the potential to be the first, one of the first countries, cities in Canada to do that. Yeah.
Thank you. I was a table host, so I got to hear a lot of themes, and one of the themes that kept coming up for us was the notion of an experience. How do you create an experience? And the notion of having an iconic building in and of itself is not enough, right? So we have a lot of work to do in our downtown core beyond that. So the notion is we can create space through the architecture to drive people to the theater district, to the Citadel, to the waterfront, but we need to do more than that. So the notion of coming together around investment in the downtown core beyond this is an important piece as we go forward, and not something we should do as an afterthought.
Thank you. Take a couple more.
One of the things I'd really like to see is not only is using the building as an icon for the city, but creating individualized moments on the streetscape so that you can say, okay, this is my front door if this is where I live. So it's not a monolithic treatment of the streetscape. You have individualized entrances that say this is the space for this.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Just to be quick again, one that I threw out earlier is how about having a literally green roof, a la what some want to do with the former QEH site as an urban garden. Make the roof an urban garden, or at least a biometrically friendly space. Not only is it just a good idea for the environment and something that can be easily executed, but guess what? It makes your view plane from anywhere on Citadel Hill a bit friendlier.
Thank you. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go over to Marguerite and Sarah, and they've just been like clustering these themes. So we're just going to hear what they've come up with as themes as they read them out. Over to you, Marguerite.
Thank you. So a lot of these things are overlapping, and a lot of them are really coming out in strong patterns. There's definitely a theme around it reflecting, being a symbol of the future. So the vision of Halifax and representing the new Halifax in a space of prosperity. Also reflecting Nova Scotia's identity. So the diversity of the province, where we're going, the heritage, natural elements. Big emphasis on the design elements around light, windows, the modern aesthetic, color came up a lot, the iconic design, yeah, something unique and unusual. Then a lot in here around the streetscape, the public space, a lot of voice for public art, sculptures, performance, indoor and outdoor art. The streetscape reflecting Argyle Street, courtyard, gathering space, and then a whole section about accessibility, and so different types of accessibility. So there's like access to the roof, the gardens, the public space, but also access to the building, and access for different types of people, different parts of the community. And then also a lot around the pedestrian piece and the building being permeable and integrated. So having, we have 24/7 integrity of public participation, pedestrian wall. Were there other things here, Sarah? There's a little voice, sorry, I forgot, over here around urban garden, rooftop, forest inside. Do you want to add something?
Well, I think it was said in the audience, but also I think there's this thing that the building both invites the public in and allows it to flow through and drives people out of the building into the surrounding city.
Great. So I invite you before you leave to go over there and have a look and to be discerning. Are the themes that conversations I was in, are they reflected on their wall? And if they aren't, stick it on a post-it and add it up there before you leave. Go check. Don't just take our word for it. Just a final words of closing from Joe.
Thank you. This has been a humbling and invigorating experience in listening to all these ideas. I said to you at the beginning, we are listening, and I meant that we are listening. I've moved to maybe 3 or 4 tables, and there's some fantastic ideas. So thank you for coming. I hope you will continue to join us and give us your voice and your ideas. And please, I'd like Tim to collect all the notes that are, because there's so many more ideas here that maybe didn't make it there, if we can collect them. So thank you. We appreciate your time.
Have a lovely evening. Sorry we kept you late. Take care.